Episode 2 of the Future Agent Podcast, and I know what you're thinking. These guys filmed all of these episodes on one day. Not true. We just always wear black.
True. Why is that? That's not even
my reason's different for your reason, I would imagine. What is your reason? I am colorblind as hell. I cannot match my clothes to save my life. Up until like right before high school, my mom would actually match my clothes for me. She would roll outfits together and put a rubber band over them, and I just wore those clothes. So once I got into the business, I was just like, I'm just gonna wear all black. It's easier that way.
There you go. Yeah, mine's different. Mine's just I'm fat and black makes me look less fat.
Black takes 10 pounds off.
Yep. That's what
okay, so episode 2, we're excited about this episode. And this episode, I'm sure we'll come up with the title as we go through this. But to me, the idea is something along the lines of these are all of the things that you should be, if you're an agent that is getting ready to interview with a team or a brokerage, these are all of the questions that you should be asking ahead of time. There's going to be some red flags in here. There's going to be some things that, in our opinion, this is what you should be talking to any team leader or broker about prior to joining their team.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm of the opinion that given the digital age, especially with this new NAR stuff, there are only 2 viable paths for agents moving forward. I firmly believe this. I will die on this hill. So a lot of it has to do with what the agent values. We're going to, I think, spend more time on one than the other, but 2 viable paths. Number 1, either you go flat fee.
Discount model.
Discount. It's extremely, you're going to pay $500. They're going to stay out of your way. You're going to do your own thing. You have the leadership ability and the organization skills to build your own infrastructure, build your own systems, pay your own expenses. But the agency is basically going to stay out of your way. You pay as little as possible. I think that is path number 1. Path number 2 is a high fee model, which some people can call it a luxury or like whatever you want to call it, but it's a high fee model where you come in and you're buying everything you need to operate your business at a high level.
Yeah, and I think that model I think both models actually only make sense if you are planning on doing more production than what the average real estate agent is doing. Both of those models fall apart, I think, if you're trying to do 3 deals a year, if you're trying to do 4 deals a year. You have to be approaching this saying, hey, I am going to be a really, really good agent, and every really, really good agent that I know, market dependent, is doing high amounts of transactions. When I say high amounts of transactions relative to the industry, 4 right now is the average in Utah that we're seeing, right? 50% or less, 50% of real estate agents did 4 transactions or less in the state of Utah. That's not 1 or 2 agents. That's 9,000 agents across Utah. That model, both of those models that you described, completely fall apart. So step number 1, I think you should be asking your team lead or broker, how many transactions is the average agent on this team doing? If it's not like 12 or more, I think you're putting yourself in a terrible spot.
Yeah, and because the reality is nobody gets into the industry to sell 3 houses. Like everybody gets into real estate is the most promising, glamorous industry out there. Everybody says, oh, millionaires get made in real estate. It's all in real estate. Everybody's rich in real estate. So most agents, especially I found this training new agents, there's a lot of hope when somebody gets their license that they're going to make a lot of money. And so again, I agree with you. If you have higher aspirations, I think those are the only 2 paths. You're either going to, again, go as low as possible so that you have the funds and the resources to actually build and bring people on and do everything that you need to do, everything that you need to buy from listing signs, posts, super key boxes, transaction coordination. All that stuff costs money. Or you do what I did here in the Perry Group where you join a team that has high producers, like you say, but also when I'm asked with your split, what are you buying? I can answer that question. I receive basically a business in a box where every single thing that an agent needs to be successful is provided for me. And I think the agents that are in trouble are the agents that are in the middle, the agents that are paying 20, 25, 30% splits, and they're not receiving everything that they need.
Other than a place to hang their license.
Those agents are not going to survive.
So let's go through, what do you think some of the questions that agents should be asking of new team leads before they get into it? For me, I think the first one that I would personally be asking, this is part of why I joined, what are you doing to help me develop a personal brand? And I think that this is what we are going to have to see teams start to change and start to push on more, is that in the past, they wanted you to step in and be a spoke in their wheel. They wanted you to step in, fill some lead calls, fill some basic open house stuff, and you were going to be a cog in their wheel, right? For us here, we are approaching this entirely different, but I think that the first thing that you need to be asking is, what is this team lead or what is this broker going to do to help me to develop a personal brand? I think what we are going to see more than anything, and I'm speaking about Utah specifically now, Utah is going to shift to a hyper-local market within the next 5 years. What that means is that the agents are no longer going to be covering from Logan to Santaquin and from Tooele to Heber, right? You are going to see very, very consolidated areas start to happen for those that are really successful in this area or in this business. And when I say hyper-local, I'm saying you work North Saratoga Springs and West Lehigh, and that's where your 30 deals a year are coming from. We're not at that point yet, but if you look at everything from a numbers perspective, we are trending that way directly, and there is not going to be a hyper-local agent that is successful that doesn't have a personal brand clearly defined and clearly articulated.
100%. So I think the first question that an agent needs to ask themselves is, what do you want to be? Here's what I mean by that. This isn't aspirational. It's, what do you want? Do you want a job or do you want to build a business? If you want a job, then you want to join a team that gives you a ton of leads. They're just going to give you leads and you're going to go work them and that's it.
Like, you're going to be on the transaction treadmill.
Exactly. So you're not worried about the social media. You don't care about any of that. You want to have a job to where your broker's going to give you a determined amount of leads that you go work, and it's a job. And as soon as you leave that place, that lead flow gets disconnected and you're done. The other one is if you actually want to build a business, which is where I think this is actually going to go, and the agents that are going to survive are the agents that are in this camp. If you want to build a business, then yes, you need somewhere where they're going to prioritize you and they're going to teach you how to get in front of people, how to become a good communicator so that you can generate your own deals. Because if you are just tied to an agency that gives you leads, that's fine as a temporary training mechanism. But if they want you to stay there forever, they can unplug you any day of the week and you're extremely vulnerable. I went through this myself. I was unplugged, and the only reason I was able to survive, the only reason I'm sitting here with you, Boo, is because of a little Facebook page that I started making videos on. And so I had a couple clients, I had a listing or two, a buyer or two. That kept me afloat. But without that, you get unplugged and you're out. You're done.
And I think the biggest dead giveaway to this is if you're looking at a team splits and they are not incentivizing you to go out and procure your own business via the splits, that should be an automatic red flag. Why? Because it is going to take you more time in this business to go and generate the SOI leads than it is the team generated leads. And so if you are paid the exact same across the board, whether it's SOI or whether it's a team generated lead, you are always going to naturally default to the team leads because they are just going to flood you with those, and you are not going to go about building your own business.
100%. So to break that down a little bit further, you need to get paid more on your SOI than your team splits. That tells you right there that they're incentivizing you, that they want you to go out and bring your own book of business. Not every brokerage operates that way. That's number one. Number two, I love to see tiered systems to where the more you produce, the cheaper it gets. Sometimes it's just one and it never changes. So that's one of the things that I like about the Perry Group, that you have both. You get paid more on SOI than you do on Zillow or whatever other team generated thing. So that gets me thinking, okay, if I want to make more money, I need to bring in my own business.
I need to start generating my own deals.
100%.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the more I produce, the cheaper the split gets. So I am incentivized to be a top producer and I get rewarded for that. And so I think that if you have those two, I think that that's a winning formula. What I found in Brokerland is that it's getting harder and harder to find those structures.
Yeah, because they want to incentivize you just to work my leads, because in theory, I get paid more on that, right? That's the theory. That's the current theory within the marketplace. I don't subscribe to that theory personally. But having said that, if you go walk into a shop and they are not incentivizing you to go and do your business, it is going to be a very difficult spot for you to go and grow your business in, because they are not incentivizing you to do so. Number two, this one's coming up recently. If the team that you are asked or thinking about joining is asking for you to sign a long-term commitment, run for the hills, run away, because at that point, in their opinion, the only way that they're going to keep you is because of an agreement, not because you actually want to be there thriving and growing your business.
100%. And I think when you have those long-term agreements, it doesn't motivate the leadership to do certain things. And so when you're new, you don't know. I don't know if I like you. I don't know if we're going to vibe. I don't know if I'm going to be good for the fit. I don't know if I'm good for the culture. So I think it's counterproductive on both sides, if I'm being quite honest with you, for the agent and for the agency, because now these people are locked in for 12 months, 18 months. And if there's somebody that genuinely doesn't want to be in the building, they shouldn't have to be in the building. And so for us, we don't have those.
And we never will have those. I'll be out the second that we have to enforce something like that.
But I think what that causes is that puts pressure on us to create an environment that agents want to be a part of, because we know anybody that's here can leave tomorrow if they want to. So we want to keep people. So I don't have the umbrella of, oh, well, Erica, she still has 9 months left on her contract.
She's not going anywhere.
She's not going anywhere. I know she can leave tomorrow, and she's a badass agent. So what do I need to do to make sure that she wants to be here?
What skills do I need to be adding to my bag so that I can continue to attract top talent and continue to get people into production quicker and then not have them leave once they're in production? To me, an agreement takes that pressure off, and it probably makes me feel a little bit better about my model, but I don't think that it actually makes me feel better, because I think that that is ill-founded trust in the system. Like that isn't a relationship at that point. That isn't an environment where I think an agent can come in and thrive if the only reason that they are staying there is because they are contractually obligated to stay there.
100%. And it's risky for the agency. That's why I've always said that
it's risky.
Your approach is counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's not.
That's why nobody else does it, though, boo. Like that's why nobody else does it, because it's risky in the sense of, I'm going to pour time, resources, training into this agent, and then they're just going to leave on any given Wednesday because they just didn't like something. That's kind of the logic behind it that you'll hear from brokers. That's why these long-term agreements exist. But I think that the bet that we're making, even though it is a bet and there is higher risk there, is what's better for the agent. So the punchline is, what is prioritized? The resources and efforts and everything of the company, of the logo, or what's actually better for the agent? That's a clear distinction. So one of the ways that you can know that are through some of these mechanisms. If they want a 24-month agreement, watch out, because they're going to have the sense of security that you're not going anywhere and you're going to be locked into that. And we've seen it. If and when you want to go somewhere else, it's a nightmare. They will make it as difficult as possible for you. They will go to great lengths to make sure that you are not successful at the next place, and they will extract as many dollars from you as they can. Versus what we do, where it's like, you don't want to be here? Cool, bro. Like, go somewhere else.
I'm not trying to fill this room with a bunch of people that don't want to be here. That's the reality of it. There's two things that goes into that. Number one, I feel confident in my ability to attract agents that want to be here, right? I feel confident that if we are running our business in a way that makes agents the focus, agents are going to be signing up in droves, which they have been, to be on the team. Not because I have Zillow leads, but because of the environment that we are creating here, right? So to me, yes, it probably does remove the pressure. I like that pressure, though. I want that pressure of, okay, how am I going to keep a Tony Acosta on my team? It's by constantly elevating and adding to the bag of skills that we have and what resources we are actually providing for the team.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's not just us, but even the Perry Group as a whole. You know, they make that bet every single day because, and I don't know if this needs to be bleeped out or whatever, but we don't have long-term agreements.
No.
You don't have a 12, 24-month agreement with the Perry Group. If you tomorrow say, hey, Pop, can I come back to Edge? We talked about this yesterday. Like, you could do that. There is nothing that the Perry Group can do to impede you from doing that. Would you do that?
Would I call Edge or would I leave?
Would you leave?
No.
You wouldn't.
No.
And so
because of what we are doing here,
there's a reason
I want
for
to be here.
Exactly. So that's why I think our setup is unique, not just ours, but the Perry Group in general, that I don't see very often coming from Brokerland, because it's a risky proposition to pour into agents that can leave on any given Wednesday. And that's why I love it so much, because there's that effort. there's that conscious realization that the value prop has to stay high at all times. And if agents don't feel like they're receiving what they need to receive for the split that they're paying, they're going to leave. So our job and the job of all the leadership team or whatever is to make that split feel affordable. To where when you take a step back and you say, holy cow, I'm getting every single thing that I need from a logistics perspective, from a support perspective to run my business, and I'm getting incredible training, and I get to keep 70% of my money, 80% of my money, that's a steal. A lot of agents don't feel like their splits are steals.
Well, I think that's the third thing that I would tell everybody is look and truly evaluate the splits that are being offered to you. Don't just look at the dollar amount, but look at it and say, okay, if I'm going to produce 20 to 30 transactions a year, what am I going to have in my business in order to do that? If the things that you are paying for via your splits, you don't resonate with and you don't feel like your business is going to need, run away. Don't buy into the splits because it is going to always feel temporary, especially if you feel like you can go and do it yourself for cheaper. And I think there are a lot of models that are set up that if you look at it and you actually get into what those splits are providing, they're not providing stuff that you would have in your business if you were running a solo shop doing 30 to 40 deals a year. Sure. So check the splits and make sure that what you are paying for is something that you feel like you need in your business, not this year, not next year, but 3 and 4 years from now.
Yeah, so that's the question. What are you buying? What are you buying with your 20%, 30%, whatever it is? What are you buying? And does that propel you to grow your business? And the other thing I'll say to agents is don't be hypocrites. A lot of agents are crazy hypocrites. Here's what I mean by that. You don't want to pay a split. You want to go as cheap as possible. You don't want anybody to touch your commission dollars. Yet what do you do with sellers and buyers that want to get a deal on your commission?
I know my worth, King.
I know my worth. I know my worth. I know my worth. So if you're somebody that wants to be an expensive agent, because I think we can agree that the way this is trending, 3% might become a luxury product. If you want to be that, great, you can be that. But you're going to need the appropriate support on the back end. You can't be a luxury product with discount support. And a lot of agents want to do that, and we're hypocrites in that way. We're always shopping for a deal. We go from brokerage to brokerage to brokerage, whoever charges us less. Yet when we go out, we want to charge as much as possible, and we're pissed anytime a consumer questions how much we get paid. We don't like that. We want to charge as much as possible, pay as little as possible. I found that to be a losing strategy long term.
So just to summarize here, first things first, ask them if they're going to help you develop a personal brand, because that is going to absolutely be a necessary requirement going forward. Number 2, is there a long-term agreement that I need to sign? Number 3, what are the splits actually buying me? And I think for me, the last thing that I would be trying to verify ahead of time, what type of culture am I stepping into? What type of culture am I walking into? Am I walking into a team that is full of a bunch of part-time real estate agents where I am trying to be the full-time agent in the office? If you are trying to be the exception, not the rule, you're going to be in for a tough spot, I think, is my personal opinion.
No, I agree, because this business, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough to go out there and get somebody's trust. It's tough to get somebody from point A to point B. It's tough. A deal can fall apart in many different ways. Financing, property, appraisal. Like there's so many things that can happen. It's difficult. So you need to make sure that the leadership, I'm a fan of leaders that also produce. A lot of people aren't, because they say, I don't want to be a competing broker. But the thing with competing brokers is that they're in it every single day. Like we know we're transacting, we're doing deals. You're meeting with builders. I'm doing open houses. Like we're in it also. We're not just sitting on a high horse saying, yeah, I was a top producer in 1984 and I had a great year that year.
Back in my day, this is what we used to do.
We're actually doing it. And so a lot of it comes from this lead from example kind of perspective. And that's another thing that I admire. Michael produces. Chris Jarrock produces.
Yeah.
Maddie produces. Everybody's on the boat. It's not just leaders on a high horse saying, yeah, I used to be awesome. Now I'm going to tell you guys what to do. We're actually doing it on a daily basis. We're in here. We're making calls. We're in it. So agents see that and they say, okay, like these guys aren't just, again, pontificating from a high horse saying I used to be the shit. They're actually in it with me.
So I think that wraps this up perfectly. Comment down below, subscribe, stay in tune with what we are trying to do. The goal with this podcast is to provide the context. The goal with this is to provide the skills that even if you're not on the Perry Group, we're okay with that. We want agents to succeed and we want to see the market increase and improve, I think, from a skills perspective from all the agents. So if you are one of those agents that's like, hey, what is the agent going to need in 24 months to do? Comment down below and let us know what you would like us to tackle. There's a lot of knowledge in this room. There's a lot of experience in this room. There's a lot of things happening in this room, and I think that we can speak to a lot of it. So comment down below, let us know what else you would like to hear, and stay tuned because I think we're just warming up.
No doubt.